There's a detail in the Bible about the Sabbath that most believers have never connected to the sky. What if the Sabbath you've been keeping your entire life is missing one hidden detail most believers never connected to the sky? You, right now, under the same heavens that witnessed the Exodus and the words of the prophets, what if sacred time was never meant to be locked only in a calendar grid, but revealed in the living light God placed in the firmament on the fourth day of creation? This isn't about saying your practice is wrong. It's a compassionate invitation to discover a deeper layer that can bring fresh wonder, richer rest, and lasting legacy to your family's faith. Stay with me, beloved, because once this celestial witness opens up, the night sky may never look ordinary again. Let's start at the very foundation. Genesis reveals God created the world in 6 days and rested on the seventh, blessing and sanctifying that day as holy. This continuous rhythm has anchored faithful believers for thousands of years. Work 6, rest 1, a portable memorial of creation that has carried families through every season of life. But this is where the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. Right in the same creation account, Genesis 1:14 tells us why the lights were set in the sky: for signs and for seasons, moedim, appointed times, and for days and for years. The sun and moon were given authority over every divine appointment. Passover, Pentecost, Tabernacles, all governed by the moon. The Hebrew month itself began with the sighting of the new moon. So here's the tension that changes how we read sacred time entirely. Why would the most frequent appointed time, the weekly Sabbath, be the only one completely disconnected from the visible signs God Himself created? And this changes how we read sacred time entirely. Now put yourself in ancient Israel. No digital clocks, no printed calendars. Time was tracked by looking up. The new month began the moment the thin silver crescent appeared after darkness, a sacred day called Rosh Chodesh. Listen carefully to the prophets. Again and again, they mention 2 holy days together, the new moon and the Sabbath. In Amos 8:5, merchants complain, "When will the new moon be over, that we may sell grain? And the Sabbath?" Isaiah and Hosea repeat the exact same pairing. This is where the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. Why always these two together? Why not the Sabbath with another weekday? Unless they were connected in the ancient Hebrew mind. Here's how that rhythm unfolds. The month opens with the new moon day of observance, then 6 work days and rest on the 8th day of the month. The cycle repeats on the 15th, 22nd, and 29th. Wait until you see what the 15th actually reveals. It always falls on the full moon, the brightest night of the entire month. In a world without artificial light, the Sabbath would arrive when the heavens themselves glowed with perfect reflected glory, pushing back the darkness. It wasn't just a day off from labor. It was a visible sign of divine completion and light overcoming shadow. And this is where most people miss the connection entirely. Now I know this challenges the traditional understanding, and I wrestled with this question for a long time. And this changes how we read sacred time entirely. If this celestial rhythm once existed, what shifted? Scripture highlights the painful Babylonian exile in 587 BCE. Jerusalem was destroyed. The temple lay in ruins. Lamentations 2:6 mourns that the appointed feasts and Sabbaths were forgotten in Zion. In the trauma of exile and scattering, God's people needed a way to preserve sacred time anywhere on earth. A continuous, portable 7-day count became emphasized, a mercy that allowed faithfulness to continue even when visible heavenly markers seemed lost. It was not rebellion against the Word, but survival in the midst of upheaval. We must address the strongest biblical challenges with full honesty. Exodus 16 shows manna falling for 6 days, with double on the 6th and none on the 7th, repeating continuously without lunar resets for 40 years. This is powerful testimony for the unbroken weekly rhythm. But then, one verse completely complicates everything. When read through ancient eyes, the manna served as God's patient re-education after Egypt. The new moon itself functioned as a transition day outside the 6-workday count. The rhythm breathed with the moon's phases. Living time, not a rigid, unchanging grid. After the return from exile, the weekly Sabbath stands firmly established in the Gospels with no record of major calendar controversy. These anchors have sustained faithful observance across generations and deserve our deep respect. So, what is the deeper treasure waiting for us today? It is the living celestial mirror the Creator wrote into the night sky, a visible, repeating parable of His redemptive patterns. The moon wanes into darkness, echoing seasons of hiddenness and trial. It waxes brighter, picturing restoration and hope. At full illumination, it perfectly reflects the sun's glory, a breathtaking image of completed work, Shekinah presence, and the coming kingdom light that swallows every shadow. This is where the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. The Sabbath, whether observed in its continuous form or aligned with these heavenly signs, calls us out of striving into trust that the God who rested on the 7th day still completes what He begins. In 2026, as the world accelerates with constant demands on our time and spirit, this living celestial mirror becomes a powerful pattern interrupt. It gently pulls us to look up from the endless grid of modern life and remember, we are not machines running on man's clock. We are beloved children governed by the Creator's higher rhythm. And this changes how we read sacred time entirely. Let me ask you personally, when was the last time you stepped outside on your day of rest, looked at the moon in whatever phase it shows, and allowed it to speak to your soul about the one who placed it there for signs and appointed times? Imagine creating this legacy moment with your family. You gather your children or grandchildren under the evening sky and say, "Look what our Father made." Even the moon teaches us His patterns, from darkness to light, from striving to holy rest. This is part of the spiritual inheritance we are passing down. The continuous weekly rhythm has been a profound mercy, resilient and portable through every trial. At the same time, the visible cycles of the heavens invite us never to lose the wonder that our God still speaks through the works of His hands. Both truths can dwell together in a heart that truly seeks Him. Tonight, if you possibly can, pause this video and look up. Let the moon, in its current phase, remind you that sacred time exists to draw us closer to the Creator who blessed the 7th day and called it holy. We began with one powerful question. There's a detail in the Bible about the Sabbath that most believers have never connected to the sky. We've journeyed through Genesis, the prophets' repeated pairing, the upheaval of exile, the strength of the manna witness, and the beautiful living celestial mirror still shining overhead. The unchanging heart of the Sabbath remains. Remember the Creator, cease from your own works, and rest in His finished provision and love. Be honest with me right now. Do you think sacred time is only counted on a calendar? Or do you believe the heavens still speak it? Drop your honest answer in the comments. I read every single one. If this exploration has awakened a deeper hunger for God's appointed times or renewed wonder at His creation, subscribe right now and turn on notifications. We are uncovering more hidden layers of Scripture and the heavens together, one revelation at a time. As a special surprise bonus for everyone who stayed until the end, start a simple family moon journal this month. On your day of rest, note the moon's phase and write down one thing the Lord shows you about rest, completion, light in darkness, or His unchanging patterns. Many families who have done this quietly report sweeter closeness to God and richer conversations with their loved ones. Thank you for walking this journey with an open and seeking heart. May the God who set the lights in the firmament for signs and appointed times fill your sacred rest with His tangible presence, your family with multi-generational legacy, and your soul with deep, unshakable peace. Look up, beloved. He is still speaking through the heavens, and He invites you into the complete rhythm of His rest.